You control the genes do not control you. I will show you the science of actually how the cells work, and you will have more knowledge than most doctors in the world today because they still believe in the genes. I taught medicine for 20 years, and we do not provide a proper and complete education. And the main reason, the pharmaceutical industry does not want us to teach how you can heal yourself. You are made out of 50 trillion cells, but your mind is the government for the 50 trillion cells. And if you have a good government, you have health. If you have like the United States government, then you are sick. So what we were teaching in medical school is conventional belief that the medical model is that you are a biochemical machine controlled by genes. Then we separate the mind from the body, and this is a vital force. And in Newtonian physics, which is based on matter only, you eliminate the vital force in the mind. And then medicine only has the body left to study, the physical body. And the significance of that is this is based on logic. If a healing profession works in agreement with nature and science, then that healing profession should be a benefit to the patients. But if a healing profession does not understand science and nature, then it may be a detriment to the patient. The leading causes of death in the United States are as follows. Number 3, cancer, with 553,000 people die every year. Number 2 is cardiovascular disease, with 700,000 people die every year. And the leading cause of death is called iatrogenic illness. And what that means is illness due to medical treatment. 784,000 people die every year from medical treatment, not from the disease, but from the treatment of the disease. Over 300,000 people die from prescription drugs. So the belief in the medical model is false. That the physics that we talked about, Newtonian physics, said that the universe is a machine made out of matter. But in 1925, quantum physics said, no, the universe is made out of energy. So when we talk about energy, energy is like waves in the water. That is, in fact, actually energy moving through water. So this is the actual shape of energy waves going through space. The question is, when two waves are coming toward each other, what happens when they meet? And the answer is they become entangled with each other. So in this room right now, there are radio, television waves, cell phone waves, all kinds of energy in the room entangled. But matter, I can separate and study each piece, but energy waves, I cannot separate. So conventional science is reductionistic. It takes things apart and studies pieces. But the new physics says, no, you have to study wholeness because you cannot separate the energy. So when a doctor looks at a sick patient in his office, he looks at his physical body and tries to understand what's going on. But what we all know about wholeness is that what affects the patient is his job, the family, the environment, the community, so that to study illness, you can't see it just in the physical body. So this is how energy waves interact. I drop two rocks from the same size rocks from the same height at the same time, and they hit the water. And the ripples are in phase, and they come toward each other. The question is, what happens when the waves meet? So I will pretend by putting one wave over the top of the other wave. This wave goes this way, this wave goes this way, this is overlap. And to find out what you do, you add up the waves. 1 + 1 = 2. So the two waves interfere with each other. And the result, when they're in phase, is the wave is more powerful. Okay? It is called constructive interference. Okay? There is an opposite effect. This time I dropped the two rocks from the same height, but I drop one before the other. And the ripples come toward each other, but they're out of phase. So two waves can interfere and cancel each other out. This is called destructive interference. You have all experienced this in your life. Constructive interference is called good vibes, and destructive interference, bad vibes. So let's say it's a Saturday night and you have to go to a party and you're tired, and you go to the party and you meet some people who are in wave harmony. The waves are in harmony with you. And your energy and their energy in phase gives you more power. And then you are walking around with on your feet, on your toes, very high, constructive interference. Bad vibes. You are in a scary place and you feel the energy go. What is going on is there's energy in the field that conflicts with you and it cancels your energy. Bad vibes. All animals and all plants communicate with vibration. The gazelle doesn't have to go up to the lion and say, "Are you my friend?" Because at the distance, the energy could be felt and the gazelle will not go there because of bad vibes. If when we were young, were taught to be sensitive to the vibrations, we would not find ourselves in bad relationships and bad places. But we are usually told not to go by our feelings, but to listen to what people have to say. All organisms communicate by vibrations and know if they're in a good place or a bad place by reading the vibrations. But we humans have that ability, but are not trained to use that ability. But I will show you in a little while how vibrations change the proteins of the body. And the proteins give us our structure and our function. So the vibrations can alter our health and our biology. Every atom has an equal number of protons and electrons. All atoms are spinning all the time. So as this atom is spinning, then I put a voltmeter, and one side red is positive and negative, red and blue. So you are watching the waves of positive and negative, and I record them. And then when you look at the character of the atom, you see the character is a wave. So atoms are in physics, in today's physics, they study the electrical activity of atoms. When you and I went to school, we studied the physical character of the atom, the mass and the weight. And today, physics studies the vibration, not the physical. So that all atoms create waves. So that the picture of the atom is like the waves with the atom in the center. So when we want to study atoms, when you use Newtonian physics, you study two particles hitting each other like billiard balls. But in quantum physics, we don't study the particles, because in quantum physics, we study the waves. And we study how the waves interference. So there's constructive and destructive interference between atoms. All of the waves together is called the field. So you're made out of atoms, but you also are the field. So you are connected to everything because you can't separate waves. This is a new technology showing you pictures of atoms and electrons. And then you can see where the waves of one atom and the waves of the other atom interact and interference. So the new physics says, don't look for particles, talk about the field and the waves. This is from Scientific American. Are you made out of atoms and molecules, yes or no? Because if you are, then you are giving off light and energy, and you are absorbing light and energy. So while you see yourself as a physical entity, in the new physics, you are energy waves interacting with each other in the room right now. And it's the spectrum of emission for each element in the periodic table. There are different frequencies for each atom. What's interesting is in medicine, we don't study energy. The reason is the drug companies sell chemicals, they don't sell energy. So interesting is that every element has its own vibrational frequency. And the newest technology in medicine was designed by physicists. CAT scan, MRI, sonogram. And what's interesting is the physicists designed the machine, and what you're reading are the vibrations of the cells in the tissues, and the specific vibrations can tell you if the cells are in health or disease. But medical doctors don't understand the nature of energy. So they will use this as a map to find where a cancer is. And then use a scalpel and cut out the cancer. But remember, all atoms give off energy and all atoms absorb energy. And when two energies interfere, you can change the power from zero, from destructive, to increase the power, constructive interference. So instead of using a scalpel to cut out a cancer, you should be able to put energy into this cancer and cause the cancer to go away. This is a simple experiment I did at my home. I took a piece of iron and a file and filed it and made iron dust. I buy a magnet. Now I sprinkle the filings, and what do I get? I get the magnetic field shaped by the filings. And the significance is very important. The filings without the magnetic field are random. But when I put the field in, the field shapes matter. And the significance is by Albert Einstein. I'll make a quote from Albert Einstein. The field is the sole governing agency of the particle. And so that the energy invisible fields shape matter. Can you explain the pattern of the iron filings if you do not understand the field? Yes or no? No. Can you understand the pattern of my cells in health and disease if you don't understand the field? So this is why medicine has failed, because it wants to understand the structure of health and disease, but does not include the field in its understanding. And so the field is the sole governing agency of matter. Particles are matter. So your life, your physical life, is controlled by the field, and that's from Albert Einstein. So that our understanding of physics says that medicine does not understand disease because it only focuses on the particles and on matter. So Newtonian physics said study only the body. And quantum physics says no. Quantum physics says matter and energy are connected. The new physics, we bring the mind, which is energy, back to the body, and the relevance is just from what Albert Einstein said. So the mind is the field, and it gives shape to the body. So what you are believing and what you are thinking changes your body. So when we see people, like if I look at the audience or you see us, we see people as physical particles and machines. But that's an illusion, because what we are interacting waves. That's why one person can affect another person just by being in the field. Every cell in your body has a minus voltage on the inside and positive voltage on the outside. Every cell, every live cell is a battery. Every cell has about 1.4 volts. Not too much. Aber
But
50 trillion cells in the body times 1.4 volts is 700 trillion volts of electricity in your body right now. And with training and meditation, you can focus this energy called chi, and you can use that energy for healing. In my research, 40 years ago, I started working with stem cells. People think that stem cells are something new. But I learned very many things from the stem cells. The secret of life I learned from stem cells. Right now, in every one of you, you have stem cells throughout your entire body. And these stem cells can replace any tissue or organ in your body. And you should be able to stay young for hundreds of years, as Greg will talk about. So you might ask, then why do we age? And the answer is because the mind controls the cells and the genes. And we collectively believe in aging. So that my research, early research, and in my chapter 2, I lay out the scientific evidence to show you genes do not control biology. I also introduce you to the exciting discoveries of epigenetics, a new field of biology that is unraveling the mysteries of how the environment influences the behavior of cells without changing the genetic code. Nature, in one of the most prestigious journals in the world, Nature, an article about stem cells are engaged in a constant crosstalk with their environment. You are made out of protein. The signal, where does the signal come from? Field.
Yeah.
Right. And so the field is the signal. Medicine talks about molecules, but then physics talk about energy control. So the energy in your body that controls the protein is a vital force. So the new science brings back the old story of vital forces controlling life. So when a signal binds to a protein, what happens to the protein? It moves. It makes behavior. Okay? Now, if you are healthy, your behavior is good. But if you have a dis-ease, the behavior is not right. Question: what can cause disease? Either the protein is bad or the signal is bad. Now, look. People with bad proteins got them from birth defects, because if you were born with defective genes and the genes make the protein, then the protein is defective. But less than 5% of the population has birth defects. That means 95% of the people should have a healthy, happy existence. But if you were one of the healthy people and now you are sick, what would cause the problem? All right. There are only 3 ways to mess up the signal. 1, trauma. Number 2, toxins. If the chemistry is not good inside the body, the signal cannot be passed through bad chemicals. But the third one is thought. The mind. There's nothing wrong with the body. It's just sending the wrong signal at the wrong time. So if you change your thought and your mind, you can change the biology. And the mind is the primary cause of illness on our planet today. Proteins respond to good vibes and bad vibes. So this is a picture of the light pulse that they shine on the protein to make it active or to shut it off. So our belief that we use today in medicine of chemical control is incorrect because the proteins respond to the vibration. So now you have enough information to know how life works. What is the name of the switch that controls your biology? Perception. And why that's important is that it's you and how you see the world that controls the biology. So conclusion number one, perception controls behavior. And the definition of perception, awareness of the elements of environment through physical sensation. We did not talk about DNA. When you need a protein in the cell and it's not there, then you need the blueprint, which is the gene. So how does it work? I get very excited because I'm going to show you how a gene works. But before I do that, I want you to know that we have been given misinformation. When people say a gene turned on and a gene turned off, it sounds like the genes make decisions. Here is the simple truth. A gene is a blueprint. A gene cannot be on or off. It's a blueprint. The truth is, are you reading the blueprint or are you not reading the blueprint? And the gene does not make that decision. So this is how it works. In the nucleus of the cell are chromosomes. The chromosomes are units of heredity. And the chromosomes are made out of 50% DNA and 50% protein. What does the protein do? And the answer is, for 50 years, we did the experiments. We isolate the DNA and throw away the protein. And some people a few years ago said, 50% is a lot of protein to throw away. What is it doing? And the answer to this question will change civilization. And I'll tell you why, and the answer is because when you understand how the protein works, you understand that you control the genes do not control you. A chromosome is a DNA core with a protein sleeve. This new science is called epigenetic control. Before in school we teach genetic control, which simply means control by genes. Epi means above, like epidermis. Okay, so epigenetic control says control above the genes. Now I will show a video how it works. Very simple. Okay, the chromosome is DNA core with protein sleeve. Signal from the environment selects the specific gene. Sleeve comes off. The RNA, you make a copy, DNA, RNA, and goes to make protein. And then the sleeve comes back on. The gene does no control. The gene is never on or off. The gene is read or not read. And what do you think controls the signal? Perception. Okay? You are not the victim of your genes because you control your genes. One gene blueprint using epigenetic control can make 30,000 different proteins from one blueprint. So you can come with good genes and then through epigenetic control create cancer, diabetes, and it has nothing to do with the genes but epigenetic control. So you can come with good genes and make mutant products, or you can come with a mutant gene and become normal. Belief is important about everything, including our health and our aging and the world that we live in. This is a picture of some beautiful women that dance in what is called the Palm Springs Follies. And I ask, what do you think is unusual about these women? What is unusual? Their ages. 75 years old. Aging is not in their belief because they have a passion to dance. And the passion keeps them young and alive and healthy. But most of us see other people grow old and expect that we must grow old like they do. I'll show you. This mouse is a mutant mouse, a Goody mutant. Blonde, fat, and diabetic. This is a normal-looking mouse. It's normal-looking mouse because it's a Goody mutant. The difference? When this was in gestation, in fetal development, the mother was fed these additives, and these affected the epigenetic control and covered up the mutant. So you can have mutant genes, but with epigenetic control, you can act and become normal. One more example. Okay, this is a mutant mouse called Kinky Tail. This is a mutant mouse, same one, normal tail. What's important is Kinky Tail is the same mutation in humans that causes spina bifida. And this gene can be covered up with epigenetic control. So you're not the victims of your genes because you can change any of your genes anytime. The following is a quote from the scientist who did this. Both nature and, I think it's written, so both nature and nurture are important and both are intertwined, but what's bigger is epigenetics in terms of bulk. Genomics might be the tip of the iceberg, but epigenetics is the base. Medicine has some information about this, but it doesn't have very much about the bigger thing called epigenetics. When this becomes known to the public, it returns responsibility for your health to you, and you are not a victim of your genes. And recently, it is becoming more public. And the recent issue of Discover, DNA is not your identity. Yet every day, the media still tells you that genes control this and genes control that. And then people get nervous about what genes are in their family. And as Greg Braden said before, if you look for the disease, you can create the disease through epigenetics. Right now, it appears that about 95% of cancer is not because of mutant genes, but because of epigenetic control. And it can be passed from parent to child like genes. But the difference is you can change your epigenetics at any time. So the central dogma, DNA, RNA, protein, primacy of DNA, is not complete. Put in the protein for epigenetic control. But the protein is controlled by the signal which comes from the environment. So it's not the primacy of DNA that's in the middle. It's the primacy of the environment. With this science, you can create the most wonderful life on this planet. Since perception controls biology, and since they can be right or wrong, then it's more accurate to say that belief controls biology. What you believe creates your life on the inside and on the outside. Perception controls biology because how we see life determines our behavior, controls our genes, and can even rewrite the genetic code. But since our perceptions are sometimes right and they're sometimes wrong, then it's better to call them belief, so that it is belief that controls biology. You're not a victim of your genetics, that you are responsible for what unfolds in your life. When you look at yourself, you're not a single entity, but you are a community of 50 trillion cells. But it's important to understand the word community. Every cell is intelligent, but when they're in a community, they give up their personal intelligence and respond to the central voice. So that the community represents a thing, one thing called an organism. And in that community, that a cell must follow what the central voice is. And if the central voice says to die, the cells will die. So the central voice is the mind. And I will be talking about the nature of the two parts of the mind and why we have trouble sometimes controlling our life. So what I would talk about is the role of how this mind works. First, there are signals from the environment, the internal and external environment. The brain, the function of the brain is to perceive the signals and then interpret those signals and then send the information to the cells to control the behavior and the genetics. So the function of the brain is perception, and from that creates the mind. Now, we have heard of something called the placebo effect, right? The placebo effect is when you have a very positive thought that something can heal you, even if you don't know it, but it's a sugar pill, but you believe it's the real medicine, then you can heal yourself with that. So the pill didn't heal you, it was the thought that healed you. Statistics reveal that 1/3 of all medical healings, including surgery, are the result of the placebo effect. Now, the issue is that the placebo effect is when you have positive thinking. There was a question this morning, what about negative thinking? And this is what medicine does not tell you, is that there is negative thinking, and it's called the nocebo effect. And in the same power that positive thinking can heal you, negative thinking can kill you. They're both the same effect. One is more positive, one is more negative, but the effects are exactly the same on your health. One will heal you, and the other can make you sick. The point is that negative thinking can create all the effects of chemotherapy. Now think about this. If a doctor tells you you have a disease, or the doctor tells you you're going to die, and you believe the doctor because he's a professional, the belief will give you a disease and can cause you to die. So belief becomes an important part of medicine. Now, many of you have heard about the drug Prozac. Every year, billions of dollars are spent on buying Prozac. And here's a surprise, that the Prozac is no better than a sugar pill, so that it is a placebo drug. And yet the people who take it believe in the drug so much, it makes them better. So if you believe that something is good for you, it will be good. And if you believe that it's harmful for you, it will be bad. So if we were growing up and programmed with stronger beliefs, we would be more powerful than we are now. Belief is important about everything, including our health and our aging and the world that we live in. So there are three conclusions. Conclusion one, perception, how you see life, the switch, controls behavior because that's protein. Perception controls which genes are being read and how they're being read. Third one, perception can rewrite the genetic code. So perception controls life. So that it is belief that controls biology. What you believe creates your life.